Thank you for continuing to engage in learning about long COVID kids and what you can do as an educator. I'm going to proceed with the next part of our presentation here. Part 2, what can educators do? It is really important to learn about post-viral and chronic illnesses. And remembering with the peanut allergy rule of thumb, you don't have to know everything, but having a snippet will give you a sense of what these children are experiencing it. So I'm going to go on to talk about mast cell activation syndrome. This is a cellular malfunction where the mast cells mistakenly alert the immune system that there's something harmful in the body. So essentially, it's comparable to, I call it the worst of the worst of the worst allergies because the cells don't know what the trigger is. So if there's a peanut allergy, we know the trigger is peanuts. With mast cell activation syndrome, everybody's triggers can be different and they range on a spectrum from milder symptoms to very severe, which can be anaphylaxis. So there can be episodes of reflux, swelling, diarrhea, vomiting, flushing or itching, and unexplained rashes. The episodes can happen without a clear trigger, but once people do know their triggers, then they need to avoid those triggers. And episodes can range from mild to severe to life-threatening anaphylaxis. So, what a teacher may notice in a child is fatigue or a lack of energy, rash, hives, blisters, unexplained skin conditions on the face or the body. There can be severe allergy type reactions with the throat closing, with difficulty breathing or the chest hurting. There can be a high pitched respiratory sound, or the child could have diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. How a child may describe it is, I can't concentrate. I have no energy. My skin is burning. I feel itchy. My tummy hurts. My throat hurts. My eyes hurt. It hurts to swallow and I can't breathe. So what can teachers do? If the parents direct you to, you need to reduce exposure to certain foods, scents, allergens, and harsh chemicals. There may be a classroom policy of no sharing food. I know that is so hard for little kids. I used to be a grade 1 teacher, but we really, really have to talk to them about it and say, I'm sorry, we can't share right now. This child needs special foods right now, so we can't hurt them. Allow the child more time to eat. They may have difficulty swallowing. Encourage them to sip water throughout the day. They may need more bathroom breaks. The parents may send a special diet to avoid any triggers, and they also may send antihistamines or an EpiPen, so you need to be aware of that. And then, of course, notify the parents of any severe symptoms or anaphylactic reaction immediately. So that's what you can do to help children manage MCAS in the classroom and also know they may be very fatigued. So if they need to sit out in physical activity because intense exercise can also induce symptoms of MCAS, or if they're having difficulty concentrating, give them an opportunity to take a break. Let the child lead the way. Whatever they need, it's easy for us adults to accommodate. So, neuropsychiatric and cognitive symptoms after a viral infection. So, I briefly mentioned PANS before, pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome. There's also there's also PANDAS, which is associated with streptococcal infections. There's post-COVID ADHD-like syndrome, which is also called PCAS, and there's cognitive dysfunction and headaches. So literally a child's internal world and their cognitive functioning is flipped inside out and upside down after a post-viral illness and long COVID. So they can be irritable, they can be grouchy, they can be depressed, they can be tired. If their behaviors start to drastically change after they've been ill, we really need to look at getting a thorough assessment done and letting the parents know what changes you see. So we do know that the virus can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause changes to different structures in the brain. So the frontal lobe can be affected, the hypothalamus can be affected, the pituitary gland can be affected. There is brain matter shrinkage that is shown on MRIs after viral infections. There can be inflammation of the brain resulting in significant functional impacts. I had already spoken before about the similarity to traumatic brain injury. Brain fog is another way to say brain damage. Brain fog is another way to say the brain is not functioning and a child cannot learn. They cannot remember things. They may not be able to have words. They may not be able to think properly. They may not be able to act in the way that they normally do. So, brain fog is brain damage. So PANS or PANDAS, it's a variety of neuropsychiatric symptoms after infection. So by neuro, I mean the nervous system, the neurological system, basically from the brain going down to the brainstem, going down the spine, and then impacting the sensory nerves in the body. And PANDAS is the same after a strep A infection. So there's an abrupt onset after illness. The child is fine, they have an illness, then all of a sudden they are not themselves. There's a dramatic change in behavior and cognitive abilities after the illness. There's a dysregulated immune response, and there's inflammation of the brain that results in significant functional impacts. And it can also be considered a subtype of obsessive compulsive disorder, where the child is really afraid and develops behaviors that are obsessive and compulsive and do not make sense in comparison to when the child was well. So what you may notice in the classroom is a drastic behavior change. You may notice obsessive and repeated thoughts and behaviors. You may notice a restricted food intake because they're so disrupted they don't take the time to eat. There may be meltdowns or rages that you never saw before. There may be tics or repeated behaviors. There may be severe anxiety, personality changes, and a decline in school performance. So a child may describe it as, I feel angry. I feel smad, a combination of mad and sad. I'm scared of choking. I'm scared to go to my friend's house. Do I have something on my face? They have sensory issues where sensory things do not feel good. I can't control my tics. I can't stop doing it. I can't stop washing my hands. My friends hate me. And the scariest symptom, I don't want to live anymore. So how we manage it in the classroom is we have to know first and foremost, let parents know if you see any behavior or academic changes. Know that PANS and PANDAS requires medical treatment. It is a medical impact. It is not mental health. It is not primarily mental health. It is a medical impact of a viral impact on the brain and nervous system. Document behaviors and document changes that you observe because this might help with a medical diagnosis. Because with PANS and PANDAS, children are overstimulated on the inside, we have to help them manage that by reducing stimulation on the outside. So if there's quiet rooms, sunglasses, noise canceling headphones, the opportunity to rest and take breaks when needed, those are all simple things that we can do in the classroom. So there is the PANDAS network where you can get more information. So PCAS is post-COVID-19 ADHD-like syndrome. So it's a new onset of ADHD-type symptoms after a COVID-19 infection. So there can be a change in attention, concentration, and working memory. There can be difficulty with memory, recall, and planning. They just may not be organized. The child may misplace things. And there can be a change in hyperactivity or impulsivity because the brain is functioning, so they may not be able to concentrate and be their normal selves. So as educators, we typically know about ADHD. And so the difference is a child was well and functioning to their capacity, then they became ill with COVID, and then they developed these brain symptoms. So you may notice increased in hyperactivity and impulsivity. You may notice a difficulty with focus, attention, and working memory. You may notice a change in typical behaviors and a change in the quality of their work. The child may describe it as simply, I forget. I can't concentrate. This is hard. My brain feels fuzzy. They may not remember how to do things they used to know how to do. So, to manage PCAS, the ADHD type symptoms, we have to notify the parents of any changes in the child's attention, concentration, or working memory. We need to inform them of any hyperactivity or impulsivity. Allow the child breaks when needed. Limit distractions. Again, this is where reducing sensory input can be really important. Noise canceling headphones, sunglasses. The child may need to wear comfortable clothing. Can we get them to a quiet room? Can we give them more breaks? They may need fidget chairs or fidget toys. They may provide you may need to provide class notes and study guides and give the parents extra homework to do it. Not extra homework. Don't give them extra homework. Give them work to do easily at home. Work may need to be split up a bit. They may need more time to complete in-class work, assignments, or tests, or be cut some slack they may not need to complete everything. So, cognitive dysfunction and headaches, this all goes along the line of brain malfunction and inflammation and brain structure changes after COVID and post viral illnesses. It can cause cognitive dysfunction and there can be pain or headaches. So, you may notice an inability to focus and concentrate. There may be a slower processing time. There may be memory issues. The kids may forget how to spell. They may have difficulty with word finding. Sentences may become sentence fragments. There can be a decline in printing and writing skills, math skills, drawing skills. They can take longer to read and complete assignments. They may forget what they did the day before. They may put their head on the desk and say they have a headache. So a child may describe cognitive dysfunction and headaches as my brain feels fuzzy. I can't think. This is too hard. I have a headache. My head hurts. My brain isn't working. So the cognitive symptoms can look like an exacerbation of ADHD. So they may just be overlooked. It may just be, oh, they're having a bad day. But it's important to consider if the child was recently sick before these symptoms started. So to manage these, provide the class notes the day before if you can, so the child doesn't have to multitask. If you can do handouts, so there's more visual information there, so they don't have to think so much, that can be so helpful. Provide extra time for work, assignments, and tests. Have tests for different classes on different days. Don't bombard children with too many memory activities. There can be preemptive rests for a student that struggles. If you notice they have more energy in the morning, have them do more work in the morning. If you notice they're struggling in the afternoon, have some quiet activities and rest available. You can also allow the use of word prediction software, spelling functions, calculators, read to write apps, written to read apps, reference notes. There are so many accommodations that are so simple for us as educators to provide. So I'm going to show you some coloring samples from a grade 1 child before they contracted COVID-19 and after they contracted COVID-19. So before, I used to be a grade 1 teacher, so I can appreciate this. Coloring in the lines, very clear, very distinct use of colors, and an excellent coloring for a 6-year-old. After, could barely hold a pencil, could barely color. It was scribbling and not able to draw. So you may not notice this drastic difference in your classroom after a child's been ill, but take note if there are any differences. So this is quite traumatic to show you the changes that can occur. So this is the same child. They're drawing and writing samples. So before COVID, beginning of September, clear, formation of letters, um, very distinct periods at the end of the sentence, and very distinct thinking of what they liked, and some great little drawings. After, so December, barely pencil to paper, barely formation of letters. You can see in the first one, the child was trying to write on the lines, and in the second one, it's like the lines didn't exist. So what would have been a developmentally typical progress between September and December became a decline because of the COVID-19 infection. With this child, there was improvement with medical treatment. So they were able to resume the learning, the writing, the coloring, the staying in the lines that they had previously. So these are some of the teacher resources that can help you learn more about these issues, about long COVID in kids, about supporting children. There's some educational toolkits, and I highly recommend watching the videos. My Kid is Not Crazy and Stolen Childhood. So please do everything you can to learn about these syndromes and these issues in children so that you can be one of their best supporters and one of their best advocates. So thank you so much for taking the time to learn about the neuropsychiatric issues associated with children that have post-viral illness and long COVID. And you can now proceed to the next module. What can educators do?